Hello, everyone. How is everyone doing today? I hope everyone answered the poll questions that we put out there, as well as put in their location in the chat box. We are so excited to start codeHER's first remote pilot conference with you all, and we found it fitting that we would first start with the girls that we've taught in the past. And so we're excited that some of you have been in our past codeHER programs in Knethra, Rabat, or Agadir. Some of you all are friends with some of the students that were in it. Some of you all are just completely new, and this is kind of your first introduction to what we do here at codeHER. But regardless of how much you've interacted with us in the past, we are so excited to have everyone here. One thing I would like to kind of go over before we begin is if everyone wouldn't mind turning their camera and their mics off, just because some of you all are tuning in from your phones. And so if everyone has their camera and their mic on, there could be some technical difficulties and not everyone would be able to participate. This meeting is also being recorded, and so if you're not able to tune in for the entire time, we will be putting our recording on YouTube and our social media account. And so we are very excited to kind of start and outline what we're gonna have going on today. First thing is I'm just gonna go over quickly what the agenda are. For today, I will, introduce myself, say a couple of words in the beginning. We have two wonderful panelists joining us today. One, some of you all may know, Elisabeth Myers, and then someone that is our very special guest for today, Sarah Ouakim. Then we're going to kind of go into a panel conversation, and I'll have some guiding questions, and based off of what you guys reached out to us and wanted to learn about, I will be using those questions to kind of go into it. Then we'll have a Q&A where you all can ask them questions based off of what you hear and any other questions you may have for them about their lives, their experiences, about your journey. We'll have, I'll close it off, and then we'll do some breakout rooms towards the end. So towards the end, we have our amazing codeHER intern team here with us. They will be leading small networking events in different breakout rooms, so you all can get to know each other a little bit, ask questions to them, and kind of see where you all can go from here. So I'll probably start by introducing myself first. Some of you might know me, some of you may not. My name is Saniya Vashist, and I am the founder and executive director for codeHER. And so I started the nonprofit when I was 13. So that was, I think, 5 years ago now. So I've been doing this for a little bit of time. And I just graduated high school in May. But and then I was admitted to Stanford, so I kind of had that decision, do I go to online school, do I do this? And I decided that during this pandemic, what we could do at codeHER and kind of reach you all, and then reach more people, and kind of have girls understand that this is not a time to think that this is a setback for you all and kind of sit at home and not be engaged, but this is a time to further yourself. So when things are more normal, you all are so prepared for the opportunities that are out there. You are ready to be leaders, and you're ready to just do everything that you've always wanted to do. So don't think of everything going on right now as kind of something holding you back, but something that you can use to set yourself forward. And that's what we at codeHER are trying to do. And hopefully our panelists today will help you all with that as well. And so our panelists, Sarah and Elisabeth, are amazing people. I've known Elisabeth for, I think, 3-4 years now. And Sarah, Elisabeth put us in touch, but Sarah's amazing based off what I've read and talked to her about. And so they have different connections to the Middle East and North Africa region, as well as Morocco. And I think you'll find that they just bring a really wide variety of experiences and, perspectives about the region, about women in that region, based off of the incredible lives that they've lived. And so I'll first start with Elisabeth. I'm just gonna read you a little bit of her bio, but instead of kind of going over, all the nitpicky things that you could Google about her, I will tell you a couple of amazing experiences that I've had with her, because I think that's a lot more interesting to hear. And so, of course, you'll look her up and you'll find all of the incredible things that she's done on paper. But I think once you meet her in person, she is that much cooler. And you're like, wow, I didn't understand that she could get this much better. And so I met her first when I was 15. I emailed her and I was like, hi, I want to take this to Morocco. Can you help me? And she was so ready to help. And so I met her in this coffee shop. And in the beginning, She like completely like walked by me. She didn't even know that it was me. She's like, oh, I was expecting you to be much taller and much older. But I was like, no, I'm like 5'4". This is all we have right now. And so that's kind of where my journey with Elisabeth started. She helped us run our first couple of programs there. She was there for all of it despite her busy schedule. And so while we were, you know, working there, she would always find time to stop by Morocco for a weekend where our programs would be. Even if she was in America, she would find time to come to Morocco, be there for our, you know, press conferences, be there to see the amazing projects that you all produced and pitched to our global business professionals. And I think that she will do a much better job of explaining all of the incredible things that she's done. So Elisabeth, take it away.
Thank you very much, Saniya. And hello to all you beautiful young women that I can't see you, but I remember a lot of you from the programs. And I have to, you know, thank you, Saniya, for that marvelous introduction. But I have to step back and say that this was really an example of one of the things that you can do to really further your own life. What Saniya did was reach out to me cold by email. And the reason I actually walked by her for that first meeting was her emails were so beautifully written, so respectful, so eloquent, so the tone and the tenor of them was fantastic. That she absolutely, in, you know, in just jargon, blew me away. She literally blew me away. So, but I forgot, I wanted to say first, Assalamu alaikum. And welcome to codeHER. I can't manage any more Dirija right now because I'm a little tired, unfortunately. Maybe later I'll break into it. But what Saniya did was make her luck. And this is really, really important. Making your luck is not about sort of sitting back and waiting for something to happen to you. It's either making something happen yourself or putting yourself in the place where it can happen. And lots of things unexpected. You may think your trajectory is going one way, and then it turns out that it goes another way. And I know that with Saniya, with our program, we tried a number of different ways to make it happen. And it wasn't until maybe the third or the fourth try and the third or the fourth potential partner in Morocco that it actually came about. And really, thanks to Saniya's persistence, she was quite persistent, reminding me to follow up with people who hadn't answered, and she just an amazing experience. So I'm a lawyer. My trajectory in life took me 25 years in private practice. That means in law firms in the United States. And I had clients that were big corporations. And in about 2012, after a long history with Morocco, including I have a Moroccan husband and 2 Moroccan American daughters who are a little bit older than you are. My younger one is 29, a little bit older than Saniya as well. And I decided that I wanted to live in Morocco because I was building a house. So now I'm here full-time as of this past February, which isn't very long. And I guess that's pretty much it. It was a way of me making my luck. And now I'm just hoping that the economy is going to come back and tourism is going to come back, and that we can continue doing these amazing programs with the youth so that we can help you all learn how to improve your lives, how to network together, how to work together as teams, because that's one thing that's very important, is being able to work together without any kind of jealousy or thinking somebody's gonna get ahead of you. Because frankly, when you work together, you all win. It's a win-win-win-win situation. And so that I think is one of the most important things that I think you got out of the programs, in addition to the coding. Many of the soft skills, the social skills that you need You learn through projects like this when you do them and you see what works and what doesn't work. And just to coda back to what Saniya said about your presentations, those presentations that you did in English to a panel of people asking you very difficult questions were just amazing. And I hope that you'll all be able to take this knowledge, and the ones that have been trained, the trainers who have been trained, take that to the next generation of young women to network out and broaden this experience that you had, that I think you'll find stands you in good stead the rest of your life. You're on mute, Saniya.
I said thank you for that. You know, we always like tell people that we meet like the first story about how we met, just because it's so normal and it's so organic that it's like anyone can do it. And I think a lot of the reason why we've structured codeHER programs the way that we have is that, you know, I started this when I was 13. So there's no reason that you all couldn't start it whenever. And so our, goal is that like codeHER is what you use to start your own organizations, your own projects, start your own small business, become entrepreneurs, become leaders in whatever profession that you see, because becoming an entrepreneur is not just about starting your own business, but it's about being innovative in whatever field you are in. So it's in law, government, politics, business, technology, whatever it may be. And going off the technology, I think it's fitting that we move forward. Fadwa is not here with us today, but she might be stopping by a little bit later. And I just wanted to put her in because she does send her best wishes, and she loves you all, and she really did want to be here. But now going to Sarah, you guys can read a little bit about her, and I think I'm gonna go ahead and read her bio. There was a lot there, like it would probably be 2 pages, so we really had to like figure out how much we're gonna say, because we could go for a whole day with just talking about all of the incredible work that she's done. But she is a serial tech entrepreneur and a sweat equity investor. She's focused on finding, embracing, and launching disruptive tech with a positive social impact. So a lot of what we're trying to do with codeHER as well, and have you all start. She's a global citizen and an avid networker. She follows her dream of putting technology to its best use, breaking stigmas, and bridging the gaps between genders and generations in our society. She is the VP of our strategic business development at Mimers AB, a Swedish health tech company, working towards democratizing the mental health industry through immersive technology. And she also holds many board assignments and NGO engagements focusing on youth and female empowerment. And so that's why she's here with us today, a perfect fit for what we're trying to do. She's worked with several organizations, businesses, government leaders, and has held leadership roles at various startups. But who better to tell you all about her than her herself? So Sarah, please take it away. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and maybe even like 1 or 2 pieces of advice before we really get into the bulk of this.
Sure. Thank you very much. I am actually really excited to talk to such a great group of people. So thank you for inviting me, and Elisabeth, thank you for the introduction. Saniya, thank you for the bio. That was, you've said so many nice things that I don't really know where to start. But I will start by saying, I'm not sure everybody's actually Moroccan, so I don't know if everybody actually understands Darija, but I am of Moroccan birth. I spent my first 3 years in Morocco, and then a few years in my teens, and I actually took my baccalaureate in Rabat, in Descartes. So spent quite a few years in Morocco. Met, I think somebody has their camera and their mic on. I'm getting some noises. Sorry.
Yes, let me put it out there. It would be amazing if you all wouldn't mind turning off your cameras and your mic, just so everyone's laptop or their phone is able to handle all of this. Thank you so much for the people just joining in.
All right. So I'll keep going just to kind of say hi to everyone, and really quickly about myself. Again, I've spent quite a lot of time in many areas of the world. One of those areas is where I met Elisabeth. We actually met, I believe, in Dubai, right? Was that where we met?
That's right. At a women's leadership conference.
Exactly, where we actually both were speaking, right?
Yeah.
And it was a serendipitous meeting, because we had so many things in common, and so many of our visions and hopes and really targets in life and goals in life were really in sync. So, and that kind of was the start of a beautiful friendship, I would like to
Yes,
call it.
indeed. You know, that was in 2014.
That was a while ago.
Yep.
Definitely. So yeah, and since then I've actually worked with startups. I've actually been very focused on working with startups and tech startups specifically, because well, the truth is I am a geek at heart. I was a very early programmer in the early languages of Pascal and MS-DOS and C++, and really spent quite a bit of time kind of diving into that, while at the same time doing what I was supposed to do, which is really going to university and taking political science and really kind of doing what my parents were asking me to. I'm of the old generation, so I'm now coming into my real love, which is really technology and using technology to better our world. So that's actually why I did not hesitate to say yes to joining this panel.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I would just, I hate to say it again, but please, everyone, if you wouldn't, I can't myself unmute you. I can only turn off your camera. So please unmute yourself or mute yourself, so that way we can get a clear sound from all of our guest speakers. I think what we're going to do now.
You might say
go ahead,
better, turn off your micro. C'est le micro. C'est le micro.
French always helps with this. But, you know, I think everyone submitted their questions, what they wanted covered. And I think we're just going to start by talking about what is most present right now, which is, you know, there's a global pandemic. More women are losing their jobs. They're, you know, being encouraged to drop out of school or not pursue their professional careers because their families want them to get married. They want them to just settle down. And, you know, parents are getting unemployed. They can't provide for their daughters anymore. It's just, there's so many different levels to the impact that this is happening. And it's happening and affecting women, youth, and low-income people the most, especially in the Middle East, North Africa region. So I really wanted to get your thoughts of, one, during this pandemic, like what are some tangible skills or resources that girls, you know, 16 to 22 can do right now? Like, what do you think that they should be learning? What do you think they should be doing to kind of further their education, set themselves up for good opportunities? And how do you see the conversation with their families going when you have parents telling their girls that are around like 20, like, have you considered getting married? Or here's a boy I want you to meet. So the social aspect of it, as well as like the tangible, like hard skills that they can get. Sarah, if you wouldn't mind, you know, giving some of your thoughts, and then we'll move into Elisabeth.
Sure. I love the question, simply because with this pandemic, so many new skills are popping up, and so many new needs for young skills are popping up, very much in the communication field, in social media, content management, content creation, you know, technology, programming, gaming, really new perspectives that, because let's not forget that my generation, Elisabeth's generation and older, this is a brand new world for us. Whereas most of, you know, the people on this conference are really social media natives. They know that field, they know that world, they know how to handle it, how to really navigate that kind of an environment. So finding a niche and finding a skill set that really a lot of people are struggling with right now. How do I communicate with my customers? How do I get the customer who's really, you know, on lockdown at home, working from home, doing everything from home? How do I get that customer and communicate with that customer and get through the noise? Because there's a lot of noise out there. You know, how do I really focus my product? How do I pivot my product or my service or my technology to cater to a brand new work environment, to a brand new, you know, planetary communication environment? People are not traveling anymore. Conferences and events are being done online. That's somewhere where this new generation is a lot more at home than the older generation. They feel a lot more comfortable in a digital and virtual environment. I work with VR, for example. If anybody in this group, for example, would be interested in even starting a career in VR, that's something that's really exploding right now. There are so many things that are happening due to the constraints of the pandemic that have created new jobs. And I think when it comes to the social pressure of getting married, that's not going to be different. I mean, that's something that we've lived with for a long time. And I think the argument against it is always going to be the same, is that you're just picking one problem and adding it to another, and then ending up with a real issue, which is you end up with two people that got together because of a crisis and then created a new crisis, and then you end up with young mothers having children, being separated, you know, the marriages don't hold when they're built on a crisis rather than being built on an actual partnership. So I think that when it comes to the social side of the pandemic, that would be my argument would be, let's not create a crisis from a crisis, which is what I see would end up happening in this kind of a setting.
Absolutely. And Elisabeth, any other, you know, thoughts or, you know, based off your personal experiences in the region, you know, having lived in England and then the United States, and then interacting with so many young Moroccan women and women from the Middle East, North Africa region, what do you see these answers looking like?
I totally agree with pretty much everything Sarah said. All of those things are very important because we are not going to get through this pandemic probably until the end of next year, if we're lucky. And then what we're learning now is ways to cope remotely, ways to create things remotely, ways to build business remotely. And it's all going to be, it's going to continue to be internet based. And so it's very important to get those skills that Sarah's talking about. And I would add to those that one of the most powerful things for social change, for upward mobility, is learning to use media to your benefit, whether it's to your benefit as a company, as a startup, or your benefit as an activist, a feminist. Now, granted, that's a little harder here in Morocco to be a feminist and an activist because there are a lot more barriers that are put up against you. But to the extent that you can learn media skills such as video skills, podcasting, learn to use a camera, learn to do montage, the editing of a video, those things are very important. And in addition to that, the soft skills that you were learning as well in the program, the Barmaj Laha program, the things like communicating clearly with people and being responsive when somebody asks you to do something, for example, by email, and you don't let it go, you respond right away. Things like that, that make you a standout in basically a business community here in Morocco that is not that responsive and not that communicative. And then beyond that, you should use this time, you know, we're not all stuck in the house, fortunately, these days, but you should use this time to make your luck, what I was talking about earlier, and reach out to people who can be either a mentor or a sponsor, someone who can push your career as you develop it, and can give you some guidance, and also just be an ear for you to be able to talk about things you're thinking about in a safe space, and to give you feedback on whether something's realistic, or there's nothing wrong with dreaming big. There's nothing wrong with thinking big. But sometimes you need somebody who's a little bit more experienced to give you a reality check. And I think in some degrees, that's kind of how the symbiosis that Saniya and I had. She was dreaming big. She wanted to take codeHER international. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. But let's do it in a rational way, in a way we can handle. And as you all know, she did it for 2 years. And the first year was small scale. And the second year was much larger scale. And she reached out to other partners who could help. So a lot of your success in life is really who you're able to cultivate as a mentor and a sponsor. And those are two different things. A mentor is someone who can advise you and guide you. But a sponsor is someone who's in a position to promote you, to push your candidacy for a job, or if you have a startup, for funding, someone who's à côté, who's on the side of you. Because one of the things we face as women is that to promote ourselves, people see us as too aggressive. And that's not just here. I'm talking about in the United States. It can be a big issue in the United States. So the best way to promote yourself is to get somebody else to promote you. And so that's why the way you can reach out, I'm sure you young ladies know about LinkedIn. That's certainly a way to network with people who are in the field, in the area that you need to contact to help with your either branching out your ideas or with your network to reach other people. So those are things that are all, there's like a whole suite of things that you can do, and not waste your time sort of, sitting at home thinking about what can be done, but learn new stuff. Because basically you can ask Mr. Google for anything.
No, and Elisabeth talked about LinkedIn. One of the things that we will be also, branching out and putting out there are workshops of how remotely you can connect and build meaningful relationships with people. You can't go to, in-person events. You can't see your professors in person. But how can you go from like admiring someone to then sending them a quick message and actually having them be an amazing resource? And so codeHER will be connecting you with people that we find for you. But what matters even more is that you have the skills to find people yourself and then make that connection, because people can refer you all the time, but oftentimes maybe that one really special person that you think that can really help you and you can help too is not someone that you have a contact with. So it really, cold calling and cold emailing is like how so many things get done. And so we will be, I just wanted to add on to that. We will be, giving you guys speakers that will be kind of going over what tips and tricks kind of work for that these days, especially when you have limited access to technology. And, Elisabeth said that thing about like, even when I've been trying to apply for, internships or jobs, it's one age-wise that sometimes people want someone a little bit older, but then it's also as a woman, even in the United States, there are different departments and different sectors where they assume a woman is not as qualified as a man. So whether that be the tech sector, and if you're in Silicon Valley and trying to work at a startup or trying to work at a big tech company, or that's if you want to work with the government and you want to do international relations, and people assume that women don't know about foreign policy or they don't know how the world works and they can't be leaders or, give input on different legislation that can be put out there or policy advice. And so I just wanted to let you all know that wherever you are, challenges for women are very similar. They just look differently. And so coming from Morocco or in the Middle East or North Africa region, there are going to be things that maybe a girl your age in America may not face. But at the end of the day, the whole like stigma around what it means to be a high achieving woman, that's everywhere, wherever you go. And that's not going to change anytime soon. So the point that we're trying to make with this conference is, how can you make sure that you're able to deal with all of the challenges that will come your way, no matter where in the world you are or what you're doing? And I think Sarah might have something to add on to that as well.
I'd love to add something because, of course, I ended up in a field that is highly masculine in its current state, in its past state, always been not only the tech field but also business development field, the investor field, the startup field, entrepreneur field, massively masculine field. And to be a woman in that field means that you really have to kind of make your own luck, as Elisabeth called it, which is knocking on so many doors, knocking on doors that you know are going to be closed, but to make sure that you have knocked on it and not even spend any time on should I have, or would I have, or could I have. You just do it and you then get on with it. And of course, in some cases, you have to kind of break that door, and really kind of make the people you're talking to face these preconceived notions that they're often sitting with, by showing, very clearly, through networks, through events, through meetings, through large, chats, and getting to know as many people as possible, making sure as many people as possible know who you are, what you do, what your skill set is, what really differentiates you from, anybody else. The fact that I am a woman became actually a strength of mine, because I could actually, help cater to, well, guess what, 51% of the world population. And it turned out the 51% that actually makes most decisions in terms of what is being bought for the household, and what decisions are being made. And all of these things are perspectives that need to be reapplied to very traditional fields and very traditional ways of seeing things. I've worked in Silicon Valley, I've worked in Morocco, I've worked in Australia, I've worked in Southeast Asia. There is no difference. It doesn't matter where you end up, you'll always face the same challenges, so be ready for it. And the way you get ready for it is not to be belligerent or aggressive. It's really to be very straightforward, knowing yourself and knowing, hey, this is what I bring to the table, and be very, very fact-based on it. Be sure about it. Don't apologize for yourself, because nobody is going to take that as something nice. And being a nice girl is never going to, promote you to where you want to get. It's really being straightforward. Here are the facts. This is what I know. This is what I can do. This is what I am able to develop. And one of the biggest skills nowadays is really a learning skill. There are so many new fields. So take the moment that you have right now and really, invest in yourself. That's the biggest investment you can do. I mean, on top of, I love that you call it Mr. Google, Elisabeth, because I actually call it Miss Google. I actually see it as a feminine. So
yes, good. You're right.
always have, because of the amount of facts, and I'm a fact kind of person. And it's not just Google. There are so many courses that you can take online and put it on your CV as soon as you're certified in anything. Set yourself up for success by not being afraid of showing facts.
And Elisabeth, especially when you were in big law for the earlier part of your career, what did you see the challenges being as, a woman in the United States going into law, and then when you expanded internationally and going into other countries for your work?
My field in the law also was a very male-dominated, still is a very male-dominated field in energy, oil and gas mainly. I remember being a very junior lawyer. I always looked really young. I actually, my first pair of glasses I got because I looked too young. I didn't need glasses, but I got glasses just to make myself look a little more credible. because I was there arguing in front of judges and I looked like I was 12. So, beyond that, that's a bit of a joke. It was a little technique that I did, but seriously, one of the ways to succeed as a woman in a man's field, in a man's area, is to be the best prepared that you can be. And I want to commend to you the most amazing film that was done about the life of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Supreme Court Justice, who just died 2 nights ago. And I found out about it at 3 o'clock in the morning here. I was in tears. I would literally was in tears. She was appointed to the Supreme Court in 1993, the year that I graduated from law school. She was already one of my heroes then, when she was only on the US Court of Appeals for the DC Circuit. But that woman was barely 5 foot tall, but she was a giant in terms of legal jurisprudence. Her intellect was a giant. She graduated top of her class, top of her law school class. And because she was a woman, and because she was also Jewish, she could not find a job. Oh, and one more thing, she also had a small child, as did I when I was in law school. She could not find a job when she got out, and yet she had the highest marks in her class from a top law school, Columbia Law School, also where my father graduated. And she made the best of a very difficult situation, both being petite, 5 feet tall is like she's only up to my shoulder or something. She was very soft-spoken. She spoke like this, and she was very well prepared. And she changed the course of history for American women by changing the law. And just a remarkable woman. There's a beautiful story about her life. Is it called The Notorious RBG?
I think the movie you're referring to is On the Basis of Sex.
On the Basis of Sex. That's it.
I put that in the comments. We will be reaching out to you with a way to watch it for free. And then I think there is also a couple of books about her, and we will be looking for online PDFs. So you can also, look through that.
Yes, and so she was one of my heroes, has always been an inspiration to me in all of my legal work, in all of my activism, in pretty much everything. And so she died at the age of 87, and she was still working hard on the court. Sabawat Taminin, that's very old, and she was still working hard, and her dying wish was that a replacement not be appointed until the next president is elected in November. So she was fighting right up to the last minute. So I highly recommend that the film about her life, On the Basis of Sex. It's a beautiful story. It shows you how one woman with persistence, with diligence, with preparation, changes the whole landscape of the law for women.
And we would just like to welcome our other panelist, Fadwa Kamal. You can see a little bit about her title here. Fadwa, would you mind saying a couple of words, introducing yourself, and also just sharing some words of wisdom and advice you may have as a young woman in the digital tech space, becoming a new media trainer on an international sense.
Hello, everyone. First of all, I would like to apologize. I was supposed to be here among you at the start of this conference, but due to some urgent and last-minute professional obligations, I couldn't. I just reached my hotel room and I was running to actually come here. Well, first of all, let me introduce myself as well. Fadwa Kamal. I'm a digital trainer and expert. I currently collaborate with a lot of big media institutions, and I'm currently coordinator for the Social Media Solutions Program, which is a partnership between Facebook Journalism Project and International Center for Journalists. It's mainly aiming to strengthen the voice of MENA region journalists online, but to focus more on the topic as a coordinator and as a mentor and expert, we usually face a situation where we don't really see a lot of female journalists in the field. We don't see a lot of digital experts who are female in the field. And I believe it's mainly because the field is dominated by males. And this is not necessarily bad, but also we need to keep a balance. And if I had to share any word of wisdom, I don't come from an advantaged family. I would say never let the obstacles and challenges you face in your life stop you from reaching your dreams. If you ask me 5 years ago, I wouldn't even imagine I have at least one of the contracts I'm having right now. And it's very challenging at times. However, I believe it also helps to live in an environment with a lot of challenges to kind of forge your personality. But also, I'm sorry that I came late, but I'm not sure if you touched base on like some of the topics I'm going to touch base on right now. But education, parenting is important. If you have kids, encourage them. Always treat your kids equally. If you have females and males, treat them equally, because coming from Morocco, we always have that patriarchal kind of way and mindset in our countries. What else? I mean, I don't know. People sometimes think I'm inspiring, but I don't think I'm that inspiring, because I see a lot of inspiring people. I see Saniya here. I think I was lucky as well. I did a lot of efforts to reach where I'm today, but also there is a lot of things that I'm learning as well. And I've met people who believed in me. I had Elisabeth as a mentor as well. If I had to give an advice, never let anything stop you from reaching your dreams, basically.
Fadwa is being unnecessarily humble. For our first program, we were a group of high school girls, so none of us were 18. So going internationally and living alone was a bit of a challenge. And she is the one that was staying with us. Despite like all of her travel, her work, she was the one that volunteered to live with us. She hasn't even met us before, but she was like, I like the program. Elisabeth wants me to do this. She lived with us. She helped out with her program. There was like no incentive for her. Like she didn't have to do it. She probably didn't want to do it in the beginning, but I mean, she was such a big help. And I'm so lucky that Elisabeth put our team in contact with her, and that she's one of our international advisors, because her story is so inspiring. And oftentimes when you hear someone that comes from an economically disadvantaged family in that part of the world coming to that status of their life and being able to do all the incredible things that she's doing, I think a lot of you may come from families where maybe your mom never graduated high school or went to college. Maybe she doesn't work. Maybe she's not a professional. And Fadwa is that story that's like, it doesn't have to be the case, because she made it happen. And to go off of that, I was wondering if Fadwa wouldn't mind touching on what role she's seen education play beyond just their secondary high school education. So what role does having that university degree have for you in furthering your career, especially with you? I don't know, like 4 universities you've attended. I don't know how many degrees you have, like 8 probably at this point, how many languages you know. And so why do you keep doing that despite the fact that you have like all of these contracts, these jobs on your way? Why have you chosen to do that? And why would you encourage these girls to see that there is value in getting an education beyond high school when you come from these countries? And I think one thing that some of these girls mentioned is that it might be hard for them in English to completely understand all the technical things. So if Fadwa, you wouldn't mind, either in French or Darija, explaining some of the concepts as well, I think that would be a great help for some of our audiences in Morocco. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Saniya. So yes, my mom never been to school, so that was one thing, but I believe she did her best to actually educate us. And for her, and I believe this is the best she could think of, for her, teaching us was a plus, like a big thing that she's doing, or like educating us basically, or letting us go to school. And I remember when I was in high school, not both my parents, I would say my dad basically told me that it's okay, I can just stop at high school, and that university degree is not that important. And it's something not unusual in Morocco, actually. A lot of women are being educated, and here they're educated that their main role is not to go further, not to get a university degree, not to get big positions, not to get in politics, not to create change. Their role was mainly at home, and they were supposed to be housewives, they were supposed to be mothers. Yes, of course, we want to be mothers, we want to have kids, we want to be able to bring in a generation, but also we should not forget that we also have a role in the community, and we are half of the community. So education is very important. And like you said, I do have many degrees, and in different fields. I have in media, I have in finance, I have in marketing. And right now I'm doing one mainly focused on security. And last year I got another master's from the UK in also political economy. And I work in IT and II, which are not necessarily tied to each other, but they are in the field I am in right now. And the reason why I get big contracts is because I'm able to combine a lot of disciplines, because I'm able to understand things from different perspectives. So it is actually important to get a university education, because it opens new doors and opens your eyes. So maybe after the first degree, you decide that's not what I'm passionate about. So how can you know if this is right for you if you didn't have the choice to do it? So I personally in life, I'd rather do something than regret. I would not regret doing something basically anyway, but I'd rather do something that I would slightly regret than not do it. So we should educate our kids and educate that they're all equal, and educate them about gender-based violence. We educate them about harassment, that it's a real thing. Educate them that they should respect each other. Educate them that everything is possible, and there is no limit to what they can achieve, basically. And I remember, like, the old self, like 10 years ago, like when I was 20, and I cannot believe I'm almost 30, you know. The first country that I've been to was Russia, and it was a big challenge. It took me, it was like a turning point in my life. So education for me is a way to learn new things. And also, as a Moroccan, our passport doesn't really allow us to go further. So it's also a way to actually be in a different spot and benefits somehow from different educational systems, because in Morocco, the system is pretty limited in a way. Here, for instance, I can study languages and I can study religion, I can study media in the same degree. So I work and then I also study, because I believe it also furthers how I impact my environment and furthers how well I do in my career.
Wonderful. One thing is, Sarah did mention that she might have to head off soon. So I just wanted to, Sarah, if you do have to head out, any final words, anything else you wanted to touch on? If you're unable to even have your camera on, we would love to have you, even if audio is a possibility. But yes, please take the floor. I think you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. So I am going to be switching over to just audio in just a minute, and because I have to move from the space where I'm at. However, I love, you know, what I just heard Fadwa sharing. The passport question was something that I was waiting for, so I would.
I think, Sarah, you cut out again. I think you're muted. Sarah, I don't think we can hear you right now. Okay, maybe she will come back.
How about this? Does that work?
Yes, that's perfect.
Yeah, awesome. So what I was trying to say is that Fadwa mentioned the passport, and I actually was waiting for that question. One thing that I've noticed and seen and really enjoy is that organizations like codeHER and are using technology really to allow the world to create kind of a parallel world where the real passport and the real visa is a Wi-Fi. Really having access to the internet, having access to communication, people, and the world through technology and through internet. And I think that's something that's underutilized and underused, and really it's also highly under the power of it. Many are still missing or walking next to, and not really understanding how massively it can change lives and social status. And I have today a virtual team that I'm working with in so many areas of the world, and the only connection we have is through internet, is through Wi-Fi. We don't even have to have offices in different countries. We work with people that have the skill sets that we need, and we even help them set up their own companies, just because what they're offering is something that we are in need of. It doesn't matter where you're sitting, what kind of company you're creating, or you are the company, you're the organization. So that's what I still feel investing in yourself is the way to go.
Exactly. And I mean, just to add on to that, codeHER, when I decided I was going to do this full time, I mean, we opened out applications to every single country. And so we have some interns that come from, Dubai, from Russia, from Australia, from sub-Saharan Africa, from Central America. I mean, it doesn't matter anymore as long as everyone has access to the internet and a smartphone and a laptop, things can happen quickly. And I think economic challenges are something that a lot of our participants face on a lot of levels. And Fadwa, I was just wondering if you could speak to how you went about funding a university education when perhaps your parents weren't in a place to do so. When were there challenges in them viewing you like it as a financial burden in education, and how did you start that conversation, and what resources did you have to fund it?
Thank you, Saniya, for the question. So, well, my parents never paid for my education to start with. So education in Morocco is for free. So I did my master's in Morocco, and I also needed money like food and transportation, accommodation, etc. because I was studying in a different city. What I have is what we call bourse d'excellence, which is a very tiny amount that you get per 3 months. That barely cover anything. So, but I did studies in expensive universities. For example, I studied at Aberdeen University, and that the fee was something around £17,000 or £8,000 or even more, plus living expenses, etc. For that one, I got a full scholarship award from the UK government, the Winning Award. And this is something that a lot of people face, is finding funding, basically. And the main thing that stops people from applying is thinking they're not good enough. That's why I always say, never let anything stop you. And I remember I applied for chevening 4 years before I actually go on the chevening experience. And at the end, I didn't get the first time. I was selected like in the final phase of it, but then I applied again. 4 years later, I decided to apply again. Right now, I study at the College of Europe. The fee is around 25,000 euros for 10 months, which is also huge. So again, I have full funding from the ENP, which is a special scholarship. it's usually mainly scholarships. It's very easy to actually find and make a list of possible scholarships that you can apply to, and it requires skills. It's required to have a set goal. It requires to fail many times in applying for grants or for scholarships or not getting them. It requires to actually be consistent, because if you apply the first time, and it can be hectic. Applying for scholarships is hectic. It's for instance, this last scholarship that I've got this year, and I financially didn't need the scholarship. I applied normally, but then the scholarship and the school comes together. But for the other one, yes, I needed the traveling one. So the process can last for 1 year. And I believe that people in Morocco don't have the patience. And speaking about Moroccans, because I'm Moroccan myself and I've lived that, they don't have the patience to actually wait for 1 year and do that much effort and think, okay, if I'm gonna learn English and then I'm not gonna get accepted. No, go learn English, because you are investing in yourself. If it requires like speaking skills, yeah, go practice speaking, participate in NGOs. And I remember the way I got in this field, because it wasn't coincidence. I wanted to learn, and it's a funny story, but my current employer is the founding organization of my very first employer, Code for Africa. And I remember I was a participant in one of their hackathons. So being there as a participant, like a few years ago, to now being a coordinator in one of the biggest projects they have in the MENA region is something very big. And actually, I'm very proud of it. And I'm very glad that I actually was given a chance. So, but sometimes it's having the chance is not enough. You have to actually go and get the chance. You have to go and look for chances. You have to apply many times. If it's a skill that you have to develop, you're not going to get a scholarship and be lucky the first time. If you don't know how to apply for scholarships, there are a lot of workshops. And we're actually thinking about doing a lot of workshops for our journalists in the MENA region recently, because we noticed that we have a lot of money to give. We have a lot of grants, but we don't have I wouldn't say good applications, but we have great ideas that are not expressed in the right way. People don't know in this region, don't know clearly how to write an application. I know, Saniya, yourself, you know how to write an application, like how to apply for grants. I know how amazing you are, but it's something that not a lot of people have here. And it's a skill that they need to learn. And accessing, and then accessing funding, like you mentioned, having internet and laptop. But then in one of the projects I volunteered on, codeHER's, it's an initiative against gender-based violence, and we were mainly using podcasts to get these females' voices who were harassed or raped or abused in any way. We wanted to get their voices heard via podcast, but then the harsh reality was that they didn't have a phone. They didn't know how to use a phone. They didn't have internet. So how can we achieve that ambitious goal of getting their voice heard online if they don't know how to use a phone? They don't own one. So the very basic obstacle that we are facing in Morocco is people don't have basic things sometimes. They don't have a laptop. I didn't have a laptop until I was very old. So I didn't have access to internet. I didn't have Wi-Fi. So how can we, the real question is, how can we help these people? How can we help these girls get access to these technical things, to Wi-Fi and to laptops or phones?
No, absolutely. Like, you know, what you touched on is,
I don't know, maybe the governments.
I was like, what you touched on is, like, as an organization, we've been also trying to tackle that. When we're on the ground, we have a school that can give these girls laptops to use during our program, but remotely. So, how are we going to do that? And so we are looking to apply for grants that may be able to, we may be able to give these girls the tech access, help them through application process. But at the same time, there's always just going to be that digital divide and that, barrier that, financial situations put people in. But ultimately, what we hope to do is at least give people skills that can be transferable to whatever it may look like, and that they have a platform they can use to adapt to different situations. And Elisabeth, I wanted to, ask you a question specifically. And I think, one thing that we've been doing, we've been sharing stories, but looking at the entire Morocco region itself, I mean, 50% of the population is women. You have 95% of girls actually completing some sort of public school education beyond middle school, but then only 26% of women are participating in the workforce. So you kind of having understood it from a different side of things, why do you think that is? And why would you encourage the girls that are with us today to change that statistic and make it 100% of girls are participating in the, you know, workforce, that these girls are not only getting their degrees, but then using them? Because, I mean, if you go through so much school, I mean, why stop there in actually contributing to your community, your society? And so I'll first kind of give it to Elisabeth, and then of course, Sarah and Fadwa would love to hear your thoughts as well.
Certainly a huge portion of this is the social fabric in which young girls are being brought up. In my place in the country, I was trying to mentor a girl who was between 12 and 14 years old for a couple of years. This was a couple of years ago. She lives with her big family on a farm. She was going to school. Every day she would come and visit at my house next door, and we'd talk about what she was learning in school. Mm-hmm. And then I found out that at age 14, she'd been taken out of school by her father. And this was, I think, based on our conversations, I think she had wanted to continue. But the problem with the family situation was she was needed to help with the daily chores, because these are farmers. There are cows to milk, there's bread to bake, there's food to get on the table for 20 people in this compound in which this large family lives. And so there were these pressures that in conjunction with the notion that even with an education, she doesn't have much of a future in Morocco as a rural country, farm girl, that she was just not going to be able to even discuss that with her parents, even though her mother is pretty, one of those very strong women. So there are many social pressures. That's just in the country, but in the city, you have a similar thing. And I go back also to Fadwa's comment about the privileged status of the boys. And this is something that both mothers and fathers really need to think about and address, because it ends up when you allow the boys to, just go out on the street, run riot, and never ever do anything in the house, never help with a chore, never really contribute to all the things the girls are expected to do. And then you don't let the girls go out and play football with their mates and those kinds of things. These are the sorts of subtle distinctions that when you grow up with them, the girls innately tend to feel as if they're inferior, and certainly not as privileged. So these are the kinds of things that when the second year of the graduation in Knitra, when I saw all those dads in the audience for the graduation, I was so pleased. I was so pleased. This was like, wow, the dads are buying into the notion that their daughters can benefit from this coding, this education, this broadening of the mind. And I was so thrilled. So I think these are sort of stereotypes, but the cultural foundation, which needs to be challenged, because ultimately it's holding back Morocco. It's holding back developing countries.
Absolutely.
And we know that. We know this from the numbers. There is so much potential when you allow the women to reach their potential. When, for example, the girls who did the team developing the app for the job application.
Yes.
Remember this? The team that developed the app to match up the job seekers with the jobs.
I remember that was the first year. Yeah.
Yeah. And the question was, did you pick women-oriented jobs and male-oriented jobs and just have the women go for the women's ones? So I remember asking, well, what about a woman who wanted to become a pilot or Or, you know, is that a man's job or woman's job? And I could see that the cogs started turning. Well, yeah, okay, maybe. So we have to challenge our own expectations and assumptions about men and women. And I think really, you know, the US, well, apart from the present situation with our current occupant of the White House, we were probably about 50 years ahead of Morocco in terms of that thinking, to allow a woman ultimately like Ruth Bader Ginsburg to make it in a field that initially she couldn't even find a job. And then she ends up being the highest position an American lawyer could ever be in. So it's, you have to, we all have to examine our assumptions and challenge them, not necessarily in an aggressive, belligerent way, but in a way that shows that you are competent for what you want to achieve. And what does that mean? You need the education, you need the preparation, you need the mentors, you need the network, and you need the persistence, because you have to expect that you're going to fail. You have to expect some failure in your life. And instead of giving up, just persist, because you can do it. You, with the help and support of your network, of your friends network, your mentors, and especially your sponsors pushing you ahead in front of other people, getting your resume, getting your business, getting your whatever it is, your performance, your app, whatever it is, in front of people. That's how you'll succeed. And the best way to be is to always be open to learning, because as a lawyer, that was my most wonderful thing. No case was the same ever. Not in 25 years of practice, no case was the same. We had the same legal issues sometimes, but every fact was different, and how you applied that law to the fact required a different creativity, a different approach. And especially when you're coming up against a law that says, like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, no, you can't do this. You can't be this kind of employee, or you can't do this kind of job. You have to kind of approach it from a different angle, above, below, around, and you just have to be persistent.
And, you know, adding on to what Elisabeth said about having the dads in the audience, one thing that we did in our programs, especially the second year, is to visit their homes. And so we are teaching this program, but let's meet with, you know, we met with your families. We saw where you slept. We had dinner, and we had, you know, tagine, and we had couscous on Fridays, and we sat with your mom, your grandma, your aunt, your brothers, and we talked to them as much as we could. And we, even for them to kind of understand that we are here for you, and that you matter so much, and you have so much to give, that we are coming all the way from America because we want to help you, made a big difference, I felt. And for us to talk to your mom and your dad and to tell them that your daughter is brilliant and look at what she did. And on that same note, we encourage you to tell your parents, oh, mom, I did this leadership conference. This is what I learned. Oh, mom, I'm thinking about joining this program, learning this coding skill. And then your parents start understanding, you know, your dreams matter as much as your brothers, as much as your dads, as much as your uncles. And you are ambitious, and you are chosen here literally because people interviewed you, gave you applications because they thought that you could benefit the most. So you matter. You were self-selected. You are some of the brightest kids in your school, in your cities. So never, ever think that you can't do it, because everyone around you is believing in you. And so tell your parents, and brag a little bit sometimes. Tell them that you're good at something. Tell them, show them your app, show them the website you're creating, show them that video or that social media account you're managing. Tell them, and, you know, teach them too. Like, once you like teach your dad something about how to, you know, use his phone, and you're like, Dad, I can show you how to do this, he will look at you differently. I'm telling you, it changes the game. So once you can not only inform your parents about the skills and the education you've kind of grown with, but also embark it on them and kind of give it to them to also see, they will take you seriously. And that conversation about whether you're going to get married early or whether you're going to go to college or not, or you're going to get a job, will look different. And you're going to have so much more to push further and let them know that you matter too. And I think, you know, Fadwa has experience with this. I'm sure, you know, Sarah has as well. And, you know, would love to hear your thoughts.
I'd love to share
Okay, so I'm
something
gonna
very
go back to the
personal. Sorry, Fadwa. Is it okay for me to jump in?
Yes, please. And then Fadwa,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah. I'd like to share something very personal on
should I
this.
talk? I don't know. I didn't hear.
Sorry?
Sorry, would you mind starting again? Sorry.
Sure. I would actually like to share something personal with this group that really is kind of part of the family fabric in Morocco. I'm number 3 in the sibling chronology, I guess, or ranking. And not only am I number 3, I'm the 3rd girl. And very early on, I would hear stories that everybody felt was quite natural to say, which was that if I had been born a boy, one of my father's friends that who was a singer that I'm sure a lot of people here have heard of, would have sung at my baptism or the 1-week party. But because I was a girl, he didn't. There wasn't even a party. And this is something I heard really, really early on. And then came the brother. So my brother is actually younger than I am. And it was, oh yes, the boy. And he's there. And in the social fabric of Morocco, it is huge because there are so many downsides to not having a boy in the legal fabric of Morocco. When it comes to inheritance, when it comes to protection, when it comes to your uncles coming into your business if something happens to your father, and so on and so forth. There are many, many things. It's not just a question of a boy and a girl. It's really, there are more steps to it than what you would think. So even the mother feels protected by having a boy.
Yeah.
What happened in this situation is that I couldn't figure out what the heck I was good for. I was like, okay, so I'm number 3. I'm not the eldest. I'm not the sweetest. I'm not the nicest. I'm like, okay, what on
You're
earth
the best.
is I could not figure out what the heck my role was in this family. And well, it turned out that one of my biggest strengths is I have a fantastic memory. And for some reason, I remember things really, really easily. And that kind of became my role. And not only that, it actually became kind of the basis of many, many things that I've done in my life. And it's the learning side of things, the academia, all of it was quite easy to me. And here's the fun fact. Of the 4 kids that we are, and all of us with the same parents, the three women are actually making like 3-4 times what our brother does today.
Look at that.
Not that he's in any way not doing a fantastic job. He has 3 kids. He's a great father, fantastic at it. You know, he's just an amazing human being. But when it comes to what Morocco sees as success, which is financial success, which is you know, who makes the most and who has the most, he didn't. And when it comes to the Moroccan mother, there is this saying in Morocco, and I think you do need to speak to mothers in a language they will understand. And what they do understand is that your daughter.
Sarah?
Yeah, I don't think I hear.
Sarah?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear you?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you now. Great.
Where did it stop?
The same.
To your
The role of
speak
the
to
mother.
mothers.
Yeah.
Teach mothers in
them in a language they understand.
Yeah. So in a language that they understand, because there's a saying in Morocco that says that your son is not yours; he's your wife. He's his wife's. Whereas your daughter is yours forever. A Moroccan mother will go into her daughter's house and feel she's at home. She will go into her son's house and feel she's in another woman's home. That's a very, very Moroccan way of seeing things. And that's something that is really important to ground with as many women as possible. Further your daughters, because that means furthering you. You know, Moroccan women live longer than Moroccan men, for example, for many, many reasons, but that is a fact. That is a scientific fact. That also means that they will have to find a way to survive without the husband.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Well, you know, if you have your daughters with you and your daughters are independent, they don't have to ask their husbands for money to help you. They don't have to ask their, whoever is around them, their mother-in-law or their father-in-law for a handout to help you out. Guess what? You'll be set for life.
Absolutely. I mean, and you were touching on the fact that my parents are immigrants from India. So in South Asia, in the Middle East, North Africa, or even just that part of the world and in Central America as well, like that is how the conversation looks like. It's that we're going to marry you off, and then your brother will work and your husband will work and you stay at home. And my mom, her entire family, she is one of the only female professionals, actually the only female professional. And so is my uncle. And that's because my mom's parents, my grandparents, were very adamant on the fact that they're equal. My mom did karate lessons. She, went to med school, things that just girls weren't really encouraged to do at that time. And then she came here, and my brother and I were raised the exact same way. I was given toy cars, I was given Legos, I wasn't given dolls, even though every girl in my school had one. And when it came to the time where now, I graduated high school, I want to move out, I'm like, I can fund this, I'm leaving. It's not a question that, oh, because you're a girl, you can't move out. It's that, okay, if you can support yourself, you have money to move out and you've earned it, then do it. And I know the conversation for my brother would look exactly the same. It's not that, oh, Saniya, we want you to go to college near us because we want you to be close by. It's that, Saniya, go wherever you want, because with your brother, we would let him go wherever he wants. And I think, I hope that, you tuning in from Morocco also understand that that struggle happens in America too, and in Europe. And it happens, it looks different, but just that fact of being a daughter and also having brothers in your family, the dynamics look so different. So one takeaway is have that conversation with your parents, is that, why don't you let me walk alone at night with my friends, even though you let my brother? Or why don't you let me use the laptop when you let him? Why do I have to choose? Why don't you let me borrow, 5 dirhams to buy this thing when you lend it to him last week? And then when you start your own families, have your daughters and your sons be treated exactly the same. And I'm sure Elisabeth and Fadwa can share a similar message and sentiment as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Stan. Actually, this thing of treating kids unequally, it's very common in Morocco. I wouldn't generalize, but it's very common. It's something that has been socially constructed. It's a social construct, but that has been normalized. So treating your kids in a way is the normal. For instance, like basic things, like in my own family, for example, when I was younger, I'm expected to do the dishes while my brother is not expected to do anything. I'm expected to help my mom and clean while he's not expected to do anything. I'm expected to go home early while he's okay going out and playing with his friends. I'm expected to clean for him as well because he's men, just because it's something that's been normalized. And I don't believe that my mom, for instance, is a bad person for doing that, or that she actually thinks of it that much. I think it's the normal for them. That's why they're doing it. So instead of talking only about educating girls and educating kids, we should also think about educating our parents, because it's never too late to actually introduce new ways of thinking and actually correct education they've had, because it's the only way they know. That's how they were taught. In Arabic, we have the saying, if someone is missing something, a core important part of education they're missing, they were not taught that way. They were not, they were given that knowledge that are all equal, that we should be treated equally. If we're not treated equally, that will create a lot of disbalances in the world, and the world will not be balanced, and we will create a community that is not, it's not it's not together. It's not in, we will create half of the community is not empowered, which are women. And yes, education is important, but also we should not only be educated, we should be educating, we should be empowering, we should be strengthening leadership. And I believe your parents, Saniya, did that with you as well, because they've let you participate in programs, they've traveled abroad while you were very young, and I remember that very well. And I was really happy part of that journey, and happy because I see that you are a future leader, and having just a tiny bit of impact in your life is such a great privilege for me. So we should empower, and then we should give opportunity, because if we don't give women opportunities, so how can they show their skills? How can they create? How can they work if we're giving them jobs? That's, I think, in Morocco, and to be fair, the government did some efforts in terms of it making things equal. And also, I should also mention this is not the case for all Moroccans. I mean, not all families treat boys better than girls, but it's something very common. It's something that lived in my family, and it's something that most women in my environment lived. It's very tiny. Like Sarah said, like it's the little things. Like her parents tell her that it was a boy, they're gonna do this, but it's only a girl. Like it's very condescending in a way, but parents don't really think of it this way. They don't think that they're actually hurting us. They think that they are actually the opposite of
Protecting.
empowering us.
Yeah.
But luckily for me, it was something that helped me strive more, helped me fight, helped me face challenges. But for so many women who face this, not only from their male relatives, but also from their parents that are putting them in a cage and put them in a frame. How can they create? How can they be amazing like you, Saniya, if they're put in a cage?
Yeah. No, you're
so
totally right.
we should actually focus on parents and environments in the community, and educating community as well. Then also, of course, the girls, but should start with the households, and
You're
maybe
so
it's a
right.
program that is dedicated to parents.
I
We
know,
can't hear
and I mean,
Saniya.
actually, one of the projects that our girls created in our program is a project entirely dedicated to talking to parents. And so their project was like organizing conferences to talking with parents. And, you know, some of you all from Morocco may, you know, have that misconception, which oftentimes talking to you comes up, is that, oh, like in America, girls are allowed to do whatever they want. But you know what? Like, if you're in a city alone.
I'm not sure if it's me, but I cannot hear Saniya.
Oh, can you hear me, everyone?
I can hear you.
Okay. Let me try again. Can you hear me now, Fadwa?
Okay.
Awesome. And so what I was saying is that, like, girls are told not to walk alone in the night alone, whether it's freedom or safety purposes. And even, you know, there are classmates of mine that parents let girls, their freedom is entirely dictated on what their parents think that they want their daughters to do, not what does the daughter want to do. And so I was privileged because, you know, even my life looked exactly the same, but if my parents didn't want me to do things, especially when I needed them to help financially, how am I going to do those things? And so a lot of
You
it
find
is,
a way, Saniya.
huh? Yeah, no, I know, but it's
Knowing
also,
you, Saniya, you find a way.
no, but it's like I think I just started pushing from like when I was 11 years old. Like it's like those baby steps were like, oh, I want to go out this night. I'm gonna do this. And I think especially once you become an adult and you graduate college, it's not that mom, dad, can I do this? But mom, I am going to do this, and I'm letting you know I'm going to do this. So maybe, something that worked, and some girls also, say that works, is that frame it not as a question for their permission, but frame it as, I want your support because I will do this. And just kind of changing that narrative in terms of how you let them know about your goals is so impactful, at least from my experience and what girls have told me. And I'm sure Elisabeth can attest to that as well. Going to law school with a child, going abroad.
Yeah, it was for me, I grew up very fast because I was the oldest originally of 4 kids, 2 girls to begin with, me being the eldest, and 2 brothers, all 2 years apart. And then another 20 years later, I had a half brother and a half sister because my father remarried. But I was always the responsible one and looking after the others, taking them to school, doing all the older kid thing. And I ended up getting married just after I graduated, 3 days after I graduated from high school, as a matter of fact. And at the same time, and this was to my Moroccan husband, at the same time, one of the things that I made very clear to him was that I intended to go to college. And while it took another 2 years for me to do that, and we were living in London at the time, it took another 2 years for me to go to college and begin college. And by then I had my first daughter. Doing that was a challenge, but not impossible, obviously, because I'm here. I have a bachelor's degree in English literature and political science and anthropology, and also a Juris Doctor degree as a lawyer. And my children, I was at least able to space my children out by 10 years. So the first one was early while I was in college. And then the second one came in my last year of law school. So, but I was fortunate enough because I had a family. My mother was very supportive. My friends were very supportive. In college, we had actually one of the very first childcare centers in the country was in my college in the City University of New York. And it was a thing. It was something very new that married mothers were going to college. Although don't forget, Ruth Bader Ginsburg did it as well back in the 40s, I guess it was, or 50s.
Yeah.
And it was hard. It was definitely hard. I had challenges, but I didn't give up. I had a dream. I knew I wanted to first go to college. And then when I was in college, I got involved in volunteering. And this is one more point I want to make to you. In volunteering, this is a relatively new thing, I think, in Morocco. There's a lot of NGOs. There's a lot of organizations that can use the help that you would bring.
Yeah.
They may need a website, they may need IT help, they may need coding, whatever it is, but you're learning the skills that these NGOs can use. And it's a two-way street because you get a lot of benefit out of helping an organization fulfill their mission. And you learn how to work with people, you get exposure to different areas. And in my activism, in my volunteering in college, I decided that I wanted to go to law school to try and right some wrongs, to try and fix things that in the United States were just wrong. And my way of doing it, I wasn't really kind of, a grassroots activist in the streets. I wanted to do it from the inside, quietly, determinedly, just like Ruth Bader Ginsburg. That's why she was my hero. Just pushing a little bit at a time to make change. And I was able to do it.
No, you're right. And I think also something that I'm sure we all can relate to is that it's like a generational thing a lot of the time. Like my dad's mom, her dad was a principal of a school, but he didn't let her get an education. Then my dad's sisters got educated. He got educated, he came here. My grandma on my mom's side, she was in college. After she got married, she had to drop out. But then my mom got educated. Now I'm getting educated. It's like, I think oftentimes we want things to happen so quickly, but generationally, it takes time for it to work. And I think it's really impactful to kind of see that progress that's been made generation after generation. So one part of the conversation can be, let's say you're getting your PhD or your doctorate, keep your last name. I would say keep your last name if possible, because that's a sign of power and it's a sign of your independence when you're getting married. You know, change the way you want to raise your children. If you didn't like the way that your parents raised you in some way, make sure that when it's your turn to do that, you're doing it in a different way too. And I think know that you all could be that generation that completely changes the narrative. If your mom didn't graduate high school, she didn't go to college, she doesn't work, you can be that one that makes it different. And if there's any time in your life or any time to be alive for it to work, it's now. With technology, with our codeHER team literally here every single day, we are working to make sure that you all can do it. You put in the work, we'll support you. We have advisors to support you. We have people here to support you, and we will help you get there. You just make sure that on your end, you're willing to understand that it's going to be hard. We can only do so much and give you so many resources, but at the end of the day, it's what are you going to do with that? And with that, I think we're going to open it out to a Q&A. It came, this went a little bit longer than expected. So if anyone has any questions, 2 ways you can go about it. 1, put it in the chat box. 2, feel free to unmute yourself and ask that question. We will be doing this for 5 to 10 minutes. I hope that, you all have any questions for Fadwa, Elisabeth, Sarah, or I that you all take this time to ask. If not, we will be going into breakout rooms for those who are able to stay. And Elisabeth, yes, please go ahead.
I just want to say one thing. Well, I hope Sarah is still on the phone, and
Yeah,
I hope
she
you have
is
Fadwa
here.
still. Okay. I am so thrilled to bring these 3 young women together. When you meet inspiring women, as I met all of these 3 in different circumstances over several years, a number of years, to be able to connect just 3 such inspiring, intelligent, and generous women in such a way, I think that really, it's what we need to do in life. We need to, as I think Fadwa said this, we need to support each other as women. We are stronger together if we support each other. If we compete with each other, if we fight with each other, if we're jealous of each other, we don't get nearly as far.
No, you're
Together, if we can grasp each other's hands, and those of us who've already been successful, if we can try and pull you up, and then you try and pull up the next generation, this is how women are going to succeed and get stronger and make this world a better place.
I mean, you're totally right. And I think oftentimes in high school, college, it also seems to be an issue, especially when you all are going into engineering or something where there are not a lot of girls in your class. And so you may think that they're your competition, they're people that you need to fight for your one spot in that engineering class in, or you can frame it as, no, we're going to do this together. And I think whether, whatever the drama may look like between women supporting women is the only way that everyone can get done what they want to. And so whether it be there's a girl in your class that's struggling, but you know how to do the assignment, help her. A girl wants to know about a program opportunity, be there for her. And sometimes it's hard. It could even be your sister to do so. But get that done, because the only way that people will take women seriously and that feminist initiatives can, really gain traction is that if women are united, if we're all fighting with each other and not letting everyone have a space, then men and people in power will not take us seriously. And that's happened so much in the past already that it's time to kind of take this step to change it now. And I would like, please ask your questions in the chat box. I'm not sure how long everyone can stay for. Unmute yourself. I think Lamia has a question. Please go ahead and ask it. Chat box is there.
Hi.
Hi.
Actually, I'm Majda.
Oh, hi, Majda.
Are you okay, Saniya?
Yes, I'm good. Thank you.
Actually, I have two questions. The first question is how we can be able to influence other people. And the second is how we can solve the problem of funding.
Right.
That's my two questions.
I can attest to the funding. codeHER, we are working on that, and we can be that first resource. Fadwa can probably tell you other opportunities that she's found to be helpful. And in terms of how you can influence other people, I think Elisabeth has done the most that I've seen. So Elisabeth, please share your techniques.
I think the best way to influence other people in a good way is to be genuine and be honest. And if you see somebody who's got potential, like when I met Saniya when she's 15 years old, and I walked right by her in the cafe thinking I was dealing with somebody much older and much more experienced. And yet when I sat down with her and I listened to what she had to tell me and her dream, her aspiration to go international, I said, this is a young woman I would like to help. I would like to see if we can make this happen. And I didn't tell her what to do. I don't think I ever told you what to do. I think I made suggestions and I said, let's think about it this way. Let's perhaps limit it to, let's try one school with maybe not so many girls. And, you know, let's try it small to start out with, but we can think big. And she listened, and I never tried to be dictatorial. I tried to guide her rather than dictate to her. And when you're genuine with people, when you believe in what they do, I think you can influence them by how you act, by being the role model that you want them to be. And this goes back, I wasn't going to bring this up to this, but this is a notion of the presentation of self in everyday life. There's a bit of acting in everything we do. But when you're trying to accomplish something, for example, even just being a mentor, I've been involved in a lot of mentor programs, both as a mentee and a mentor. But when I became a mentor, I kind of had to act the part. And so there's this theory, the presentation of self in everyday life. It's a legitimate sociological theory that won an award in 1959 by Irving Goffman. That goes, if you can act the part, you can be the part. And so in all challenging situations, you need to think that way. And also when you're trying to model behavior or thought or just a way of being, it's another way at coming to it when you don't necessarily know what you're doing. But at bottom, I think you have to be genuine and you have to believe in what you're doing and what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You were talking, Elisabeth, about like, oh, I would wear glasses to like look bigger or like, you know, appear older. And remember the embassy funded program in Rabat that we were teaching at, it was like 500 students. So we didn't know them in the past. It was like a very quick, like 5-hour workshop that we were running. And so we had a Q&A at the end. And like this girl asked me, so like, how does it feel to be like do this as your full-time job, and how does it feel, like how did you do all of this? And I think she assumed I was much older than I was, and I was like, I think I'm actually younger than you. And I was like, I can't tell you all of that. And I think you all, once you start doing things and you already have done things, you're gonna have your friends be like, hey, like, can you also teach me this? How did you create that website? How did you present that? How did you make an app? How did you make those marketing materials for your social media? How did you use Canva? And you're gonna quickly find that like these skills that you have, all your friends will want to, especially your guy friends. I think once you find like boys your age will like see like, oh my God, she can make an app? Really? Why can't I make one? And you're gonna find that these skills are so high in demand that once you have them, your teachers, your parents, your friends will see you as also a mentor and a role model if you choose to take that upon yourself. There are codeHER interns here, new people. Please ask your questions while we have our amazing panelists here. We would love to hear what you all have to say. Don't be shy. I know it's sometimes intimidating to kind of pose a question to a bigger Zoom, but that's what they're here for. So
Saniya, I would like to ask, to add something about regarding funding.
yes,
So,
yes.
a personal experience. So like we've mentioned before, I don't come from a privileged background. I didn't have money. And at the age of 21, I had traveled to over 40 countries and I didn't have a job. So most of my travels were funded. And just girls' advice, look out there. There are a lot of scholarships, a lot of grants to travel, a lot of forums that are fully funded. And there are a few websites where you can actually look for these kind of opportunities. And I remember I would literally apply for everything I find interesting, like literally one application per day. And of course, I got rejected a lot at the beginning because, of course, I didn't know how to write in English properly. I didn't know how to write an application properly. But just look out there. There are a lot of opportunities. And the same way that codeHER, for instance, had funding at some point to achieve a lot of the things they've achieved, the same way you can also find funding. And if you can, sometimes there is no funding that is specific to what you're looking to achieve or the project you have in mind. Try to contact organizations that give funding. Sometimes they're looking for that idea that is going to inspire them and give you funding. So never let the fact that there is no funding or the idea that there will be no funding stop you from actually looking for funding. There is a lot of funding out there. Now I'm looking, so now I'm on the other side. So before I was the one looking for funding, now I'm a grant reviewer, and I receive a lot of grant proposals, like people propose ideas to be considered and to be awarded grants. And on the other side, it's not really complicated. People who give grants do not ask for like complicated ideas, just simple creative ideas explained in a proper way. And you should just be consistent and coherent and coherent.
You're so
and,
right.
yeah,
I mean,
so
the second year Elizabeth sent me a message. She's like, there's a public diplomacy grant from the State Department, apply. And I was like, there's no way they would fund our program when we've only been doing it a year. They gave us $20,000. And now we're using that same grant, pitching it to different embassies. And so even from our end, we did not think that we were going to get that much money. And actually, we only originally asked for 16,000. They gave us more money because they thought we could do more. And so oftentimes you'll see that these things that you don't think you have a shot at, people will find interest. And I think even as women, oftentimes society tells us to doubt ourselves, or we doubt ourselves, but there are people here to help. codeHER is here to help. There are government institutions in place for you to get help from. Your teachers are here to help. Our advisors are here to help. And I think, if anyone has to add on to that, or then I'll move into a question that Taylor asked. She's interested in joining our codeHER team, and I pitched to her that she should, check out this conference to see, what we're looking at. And so
I'd love to just address.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to address both the influence part and the funding part. Just really quickly, I'm not going to take too long on it. When it comes to the influence part, I totally agree with everything that was said about it. The one thing that many people forget is the perspective of the people or the person you're trying to influence. Know where they're at, know where they're thinking, what their mindset is, what their baggage is, what their cultural baggage is. Try to figure out who you're talking to, because you cannot influence someone you don't know. Trying to influence someone you don't know is really talking to an empty screen. nothing's going to happen. So really get to know who you're trying to influence. So I'm not sure where that question came from and who they're trying to influence. Yeah. So just, you know, take in the perspective. I work with business development. It's all about, you know, influencing and making people see new perspective and new technologies and trying things that they've never tried, never seen, never even thought were possible. And that's all about really knowing who you're talking to, who is your target audience. Wonderful. When it comes to funding, it is very important to understand what you're looking to fund. Are you funding your own personal development? Are you trying to find funds to start a company? That's actually one part that I work with on an everyday basis. One thing that many people go into funding with is, oh, but they should want to give me the money because I want to do something good. Absolutely. The money comes from actually making money. So if your idea isn't making money or won't be making money, don't go into the investment capitalist fields. Don't go into VC. Don't go into angel investments. You know, focus on NGOs. Focus on you know, more of the humanitarian side, because they will be more willing to do so. Know who you're asking the money from and what for.
Yeah, and going into Taylor's question that she put out, she's actually organizing a women's empowerment conference at Arizona State University, which is the largest in that region. And so she asked, how do you show support to a group that you may not relay to because of disparity in life from geographical location? I can relate to, because going to Morocco, first, I didn't know anything about the country, about the people. I've heard that not all men would have been receptive to the idea, and that's why we started including fathers into the program and mothers into the program, because we thought that's the best way. We got male teachers involved because male teachers would tell other male teachers, and then that would, we had Alex and Mr. Thelby, they were the directors for one of the schools we partnered with. They, you know, these girls seeing that their male teachers, these male directors are taking interest in their program and what women need was extremely impactful. But Sarah, Elisabeth, Fadwa, would love to hear your thoughts on that question as well.
I can take a shot at it. This is Sarah. Sorry.
Wonderful. No problem.
Well, if you can't relate to the audience, then, you know, take a moment and just meet with a handful of them and ask questions. If you can't meet in person, just send a few questions. Hey, I would love to know your perspective on this or on that, depending on what the theme is going to be. This is female leadership. Hey, what are the specific issues that you're facing? What kind of, generality? We often want to come away from generalities and commonalities and saying, oh, the normal. But, you know, we all have a different normal in different, and that's what we're talking about when we're saying that we can't relate to someone, is that they have another normal. And to figure that one out, it's really through conversation and communication.
Absolutely. Elisabeth or Fadwa, I think this would be our last question before we kind of wrap this up and go into breakout rooms. So either of you, anything to add on to that?
No, but I think Fadwa has to leave shortly, right?
I see.
Yes, actually, I have to leave shortly because I only took the hotel room to actually be able to join you today, even for a short time. But just I'll comment on that question. You don't have to be in the same situation as someone else or live what they lived to be able to understand. You don't need to relate, you just need to understand, and that's very important. So maybe we need to reframe or rephrase the question, like how to understand these people and in order to help them properly. So, and understanding someone is not too complicated. I think relating to someone, you would need to actually live something similar to be able to relate, right? You don't need to relate, Tyler, just need to understand. That's my comment. And I think I'll be leaving, so that's why I'll thank all of you.
Okay, everyone. Fadwa, big thank you for joining us today. I know
Thank you so
timing
much,
was
and a
so
big apology.
inconvenient, and we were really trying to hope that we were able to get a time that fits you well, but you're, especially you being a Moroccan woman that is not, you know, maybe 10 years older than these girls, I mean, they can see being you in a couple of years. And I think your story was so inspiring. And I really hope that everyone got a lot out of it, because
Thank you so
for
much.
you all in Morocco to see her, and she came from situations not too far from yours, and look at where she is now, it's just a testament to what's possible. And you don't have to be in America. You don't have to be, you know, living in Europe or living somewhere else to make it happen. She made it happen. So I think so can you.
Thank you so much, Saniya. And
Thank you, Fadwa.
I know that you're gonna keep the contact of all the participants today.
Absolutely.
So I offer my.
Oh, I think did she leave?
I think she got disconnected.
Yeah, I think she got disconnected. Yeah.
Okay, I will just go ahead and see if she stops by with the next step. So we will have breakout rooms after that. Those that can't join, that is our codeHER Girls. We are on all social media platforms under that. Our website, codehergirls.org. Our general email, info@codehergirls.org. We will follow up with all of you after this conference. And we will do, these are the next steps. And so we are piloting a one-on-one mentorship program. So our wonderful interns on the codeHER team will be a part of that. You can fill out a form and you can get a mentor that suits your interest, your background, and they will contact you and start that up. We are also going to be piloting a social entrepreneurship cohort. So it's a 5-week program, every single week, guest speakers, projects, trainers that are going to be there. That once we get the funding that we need for it, because there will be laptops that will be sent to your home. There will be also a gift bag with different things you would need for the program, as well as different opportunities. And so we are working on allocating funding for that, but hopefully it comes in relatively soon. And so there will be an application to apply for that. It will be a little bit more selective in the beginning just because we would have a limited amount of funds. So there will be an application, a couple of questions you would have to answer, your grades from your university or high school, also a teacher recommendation, and then we will be interviewing you. Someone from the codeHER team will interview you. After that, if you are selected, we would begin. In our email, there will be information about how to join. A recording of this conference will be posted on our YouTube and social media in case you came in late, you're gonna leave early. And so going off of that, we are going to be going into our breakout rooms. Elisabeth, Sarah, I know you are busy. There is no pressure at all to join. I wanted to first thank our wonderful codeHER intern team. They were here from the beginning when I pitched it to them. I recruited them. I found them on LinkedIn. They filled out an application. I interviewed them. These are the people that selected this department, and we've been, I've been working with them for a couple of weeks now, really getting this started. And so they've been absolutely wonderful. I'm just going to shout them out real quickly. So Subhangi, she is Indian, but she's living in Washington and she's studying data science at the University of Washington. Meena Hill, she's from Pakistan. She's studying engineering at a university there. Other members we have is, let me just look, Carly. Carly has been wonderful. She has taken a lot of interest in the Middle East, North Africa department. She was part of a lot of the questions that I asked, and she's been really doing a great job with us. So I think that's everyone. Please type in your name if I missed you, but these are just some of the people that we've been kind of working with. And as soon as I decided to do this full time, I mean, our team has grown to like 50 now, and we have an amazing marketing department. You girls that have done codeHER programs in the past, you can help us out too if you're interested in. There will be an application, but if you're interested in working with girls in your region, working in marketing, working in developing our programs, we would love to have you, because you all know what works and what doesn't the best, because you've been with us for at least 2 years. And so going off of that, I will be putting you all into breakout rooms. codeHER interns, I'm going to be making you all co-hosts. So that way you can go to the breakout rooms as needed. Elizabeth, do you have time to stay? No worries if you can't, as well as Sarah, do you by any chance have time to stay as well?
Unfortunately, I have to run,
No
but I would
problem
love
at
to say,
all.
I would love to just, you know, say thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for joining
And
us today. Thank you so
there's
much.
there's a massive amount of, you know, ideas that I got from this call. And please feel free to reach out if there's anything I can help out with. I have a huge network in Morocco. Elisabeth knows that as well. Know a lot of people there. So just give me a shout out, even internationally, of course. There are grants everywhere to ask for. And if there's anything of interest, just reach out. Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. So I do, you know, invite anyone to communicate with me there, invite, you know, me and connect. And if they see somebody of interest that they would like to be introduced to let me know. Just to start with codeHER's, I don't know where it comes from. I tend to get quite a bit of
Thank you so
communication
much,
there.
Sarah. I know for a fact that all of these girls learned so much from your story, especially you being in the tech space and in the business development and the startup field. And so I hope they really got something out of it. Elizabeth, also no need for you to stay if you don't have the time. I know it's late over there now. And our breakout rooms would be around 10 minutes after this.
Thank you so much, Saniya. This was wonderful. And also, Sarah, thank you very much for participating. It was really great to reconnect because we've kind of been distant for a while. So to have you on this program was just phenomenal. And to the interns, I haven't met you, but I have seen some of your resumes, and I wish you all the best with your endeavors because you are also very inspiring young women.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much. I'm going to be assigning you all to breakout rooms. There will be automatically, I will be putting you all into 3 rooms, and you should be all getting an invite to join a breakout room. Mina Hill, Carly, as well as Subhangi, please become one of the hosts for the breakout room that you choose. And then we from there will go ahead. I just hope that they're not 2 interns per breakout room. All right, thank you, Naima, I appreciate it.
Thank you, bye.
Bye, Simran.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah, I appreciate it. All
Bye.
right. Bye. Okay, I hope you all, if you can, stay for your breakout rooms. Go into them. Salwa, Sukaina, Shema, yeah, get into them. MS, I'm not sure how many are still here. If you're in the breakout rooms, get to them, and our amazing interns will be running them. Hello. Mina Hill, are you good to go for leading the discussion?
Yep, sure.
Awesome. Would love if you could start your video as well. Participants in this room, turn on your video if you can. Mina Hill is amazing. She's from Pakistan, not too far from Morocco. Pakistan is also a Muslim country, and so I think a lot of the challenges that Muslim women face can be, talked about here. Zainab is amazing. I have worked with her for like 3 years. Omnia, she's also, oh my God, it's like really nice to see everyone. If you can turn your cameras on, please do, ladies. It'd be kind of like a nice way to get to know other people that are also interested. And I will let Mina Hill kind of take it from here.
All right, perfect.
I just want to say hi and thank.
Oh, sorry.
Hi, just checking in. Nuhaila, Shema, Lamia, if you can turn your cameras on for the breakout room, that would be amazing. It would be kind of like a way to get to know each other. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Majda. Nuhaila, Shema, if you can, please. Subhangi is amazing. She's from India, but she's studying in the United States. She has an awesome story to share. She's done really cool things with us. She's only been with us for a couple of weeks, but she's studying data science and computer science.
Statistics and data science.
Yeah, statistics. And I think you all should ask her questions, get to know each other. And she has some also conversation starters for you all.
But obviously,
hi, Carly.
Hi.
Taylor, Selma, if you wouldn't mind turning on your cameras, if you can, it'll just make this work a little bit better. Thank you. Thank you. And Carly is amazing, and she has, they've worked together to kind of run these breakout rooms. And so Taylor, thank you for joining us today. We're happy to have you for our conference. Selma, Isha is actually one of my family friend's daughters. So my dad and her dad went to med school together in India. And so you all like really come from different places in the world. And so I think Carly will kind of be helping you all to figure out like what to talk about and go from here.
Yeah, we were just doing like short little introductions. I was just saying I just graduated college, grew up in California, and now just kind of riding out this COVID wave and figuring out my next steps from here. But yeah, I really enjoyed the conference, and it seems like everyone else has. It was really good.
So too. Selma, I've worked with her in Morocco, I think in Agadir, right? Yeah, she was wonderful. She did great work. And so I would, go ahead. Carly, you got this. I'm just kind of checking in.
Yeah. So I
could introduce.
Everybody, my name. Can you hear me first? Can you hear me?
No,
yeah. So what would you want to also put it in the chat box? Thank you, Amnia, for turning your camera on. Zena would love your camera on. Salwa, I think you're kind of cutting out, so maybe if you can type it, that would be nice. Thank you. Hi, Zena.
Hi, I miss you.
I miss you too. It's been so long.
Yeah, it's 1 year. And
yeah,
I think it's
so
1 year and 1 month.
I know. I mean, if there wasn't COVID, we would be there right now. Yeah, but the plan is to go next summer. And so Mina Hill kind of take it from here, and she has a lot of things to talk to you all about.
Yeah.
I'd like to be an entrepreneur.
Is there like a particular field that you're particularly interested in? Is there something that you have an idea, like a startup idea or anything?
No, that's all.
No, like I think that's like codeHER's is like a perfect platform for entrepreneurship as well, because those are the skills that we are aiming to develop as well. So yeah, like happy to have you here. What about you, Lamia?
Actually, I'm thinking about informatic designer. I'm really passionate about it and interested about it.
Okay, wow. Yeah, honestly, like what I want to do when I grow up, or like in my career field, is that I want to do product management, which is essentially like being the CEO of a product or a service, like just even like the smallest feature, for example, is recording on Zoom. So that could be something that I could control. But it's like super funny, Lamia, because I was just thinking to myself yesterday that a product manager is like intersecting technical design and business skills, and I have no knowledge about design. So I'm so happy for you that you found like your passion in design. But essentially, like I was curious as to in your childhood or like in your past experiences, if there was someone
attracted me.
Attracted me to popping in. Go ahead. I'm just like popping into all of them. Like don't
It's
stop.
the little like, oh, this meeting's being recorded.
Yeah, I know. I can get it. I'm gonna like probably just stop the